afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar hosted by Patagonia Health. Today's webinar topic is tips and resources to improve the vaccination experience. If you aren't familiar with the Zoom webinar platform, take a look at the control panel at the bottom of your screen. Here, you can configure your audio settings, send chat messages, and ask questions. And just to make sure that chat button is working, we'd love for you to chime in and let us know where you are joining us from today. We are so excited to be featuring two speakers from immunize.org today. As a quick background about them, Dr. David Sanders is the Chief Health Informatics Officer at immunize.org. He leads digital innovation and website development. He has 20 years of healthcare industry experience across clinical informatics roles, and he's a graduate of Vanderbilt University School of Medicine. Courtney Londo is a program manager at immunize.org, leading clinical resource and outreach projects. She has nearly 20 years of experience in public health, managing grants, leading coalitions, organizing communications campaigns, and collaborating with immunization stakeholders. Courtney has a master's degree in communication from Michigan State University. So again, we're really excited, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen so you can take over.
Great. Thanks so much, Dana. And I think David will pull up the slides. Great. I see them. Wonderful. Thanks again, Dana. And we're really excited to be here with you all today to share our resources with you and to talk about tips for improving the vaccination experience. Next slide, please, David. So the purpose of today's webinar is to highlight the resources that are available and practical tips to improve the vaccination experience and address vaccination anxiety. We also want to explore evidence-based electronic, print, and video tools that support a positive, confident vaccination encounter with your patients, and share tips and tricks for finding what you're looking for on the immunize.org family of websites. So that's really our goals here today. Thanks, David. We're going to quickly pull up a Zoom poll to get a sense of who we have with us here today. I don't see one yet, Dana, but that doesn't, there it is. Great, wonderful. So we're curious. Nope, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure it was popping up. We're curious prior to today, are you familiar with immunize.org? So as an organization, have you heard of us? Yes or no? And if yes, how often do you visit the immunize.org website? If you answered no to the prior question, you can either skip the second one or just say, this is my first time, so that you can mark a response. But just gives us a sense of how many people here are familiar with immunize.org and how often you use our resources. So I'll give you a minute or two to fill that out. I did see a Bay City, Michigan on there. That's great. Northern Michigan. I'm in Michigan myself. So hi. I don't see the poll results yet, Dana. There they are. Wonderful. All right, looks like a lot of you, most of you are familiar with immunize.org. Many of you visit the website weekly or monthly. So welcome to all, both immunize.org newbies and tried and true users. We're really glad to have you here. And thanks for taking that quick poll. I'm going to turn it over to David Sanders, who's going to discuss tips and resources for improving the vaccination experience.
Great. Thank you very much, Courtney. Yes, we are very excited to be presenting to you today. We're going to go over a lot of material, and we're also going to reserve some time for a quick demo to show you where to find these things on our website at the end. The topic we're going to be focusing on are the resources for improving the vaccination experience, especially around when it comes to anxiety and the patient risk and anxiety around being vaccinated. So this has been an area we have focused on for a number of years. We launched our first content in 2022 and spent a couple years expanding these resources. We have print and video tools to help create a positive vaccination experience to ease injection anxiety in both children and adults. A lot of links to additional resources from our trusted partner organizations, in addition to what immunize.org has produced and created ourselves. And I just want to point out here that everything I show you, in fact, all of our resources for providers and for the public are available on our websites free of charge, free to download, link, copy, share. So we do not charge for anything that we create. So we have a landing page or a homepage specifically for the topic of improving the vaccination experience within our clinical resources. And to broadly just characterize our resources, we have 2 in-depth webinars, which are an hour each. We have 8 printable resources, which are PDFs. 4 of those are for providers. 4 of them are for vaccine recipients, so patients, caregivers, parents, and these are on immunize.org so that the providers can select the right resource, send them electronically or print them and give them to a patient. We also have 6 videos that were created by our CEO, Dr. Kelly Moore, and we'll actually be showing you one of those during the presentation, and additional content, both from us, things that help broadly improve the patient experience, and also, as I mentioned earlier, links to other great organizations that are doing this type of work. So first, we're going to look at clinical resources. And when we talk about clinical resources, we're talking about documents that we create. They're in PDF format. And those have 2 different audiences. So one are the providers directly, and then also, as I mentioned before, documents for the providers to give to patients or caregivers. So for the resources for providers, we have 4 documents, so 4 PDFs, and you can see previews there and the titles of those in the screenshot. 3 of these are on the topic of addressing vaccine anxiety. There's one for infants and toddlers, one for children, and then one for adolescents and adults. And then we have a 4th resource that is specifically on the topic of syncope and fainting during vaccination. We're going to just do a little bit of a deeper dive into a couple of these. So here's a closer look at some of the strategies for reducing anxiety from the document focused on children. So these are all single-page handouts. So great for printing or having available to read or to give to the patient. These are just examples of some of the information here. I know you can't read that there, but we invite you to check those out, the full documents later. So this would include information like what to do before the visit, how to prepare the caregiver to bring something like a comfort item, a stuffed animal, a blanket, a fidget item. But importantly, the provider recommending keeping the needles out of sight. We don't want to provoke more fear than is necessary of needles. Things to do during the visit, like offering ideas for communicating coping strategies to the patient or to the parent. So taking deep breaths, using items to distract them during the actual injection, and also using pain management options. And some of those are pharmaceutical, topical analgesics, or devices. So there's certain devices that help desensitize the nerves. Coal is also used, vibration is used. And so those are some things that these documents go over. And then what to do after the visit to minimize pain, such as the use of pain-reducing medications. Looking now a little closer at the vaccination-related syncope handout. This is also a one-page handout. In fact, all of these documents are a single page. This document gives providers information about what is vaccine-related syncope, why do some patients faint. I'm one that actually does. I know I have a lot of personal experience here, unfortunately. And then how to prepare patients, how to respond to that, how to prevent that. So a lot of strategies about reducing the pre-syncopal symptoms or syncope, like taking a good history, knowing the patients who that might be a risk in, having the patient both during or after the procedure lie down or even sit down or even lie down and for up to 15 minutes after the vaccination, addressing any other things that might be making them uncomfortable, like being hungry or thirsty, and just overall strategies, what you say and how you set up the clinic to help reduce anxiety. And then if these things do occur, how to respond to them, how to alleviate them, how to act quickly, and then what to do in monitoring vital signs and such as heart rate and blood pressure. Our next section, what we did before, was for the healthcare providers. We also have these resources for parents and the patients themselves. And so these are organized, again, by age. So there's a vaccine anxiety document for infants and toddlers, a second one for children, a third one for adults. We also have a fainting related document for the patients. And I do want to point out that these are, of course, in English, but also all 4 of these are available translated into Spanish. Looking a little closer at these, here's an example of one of those. This is the one for vaccine anxiety in infants and toddlers. It offers suggestions similar to what we showed for the providers, but this is wording specifically to parents, caregivers, is what to do before the visit, setting realistic expectations, not promising your child there'll be no shots or no needles, because maybe there will be, or there may be, using some numbing medication, things that might take a while to take effect, so that maybe they aren't practical to administer in the clinic. They need to be done before, but those are options like 5% lidocaine sprays or creams. What to do during the visit, allowing the infant and toddler, say, to breastfeed or have a pacifier, holding them, using toys, music, mobile devices, other distraction devices, and then what to do after the visit. Explaining what to expect with a fussy baby, but also in this particular population, that's recommended to avoid some pain medications, which you might want to use in older children or even adults. This is a look at the document we have for vaccination-related syncope. So it's in good plain language describing to patients or patients' caregivers, parents, what is feigning, why does it happen, explaining that it's not really the vaccine itself, it's the needle, it's the pain, how to reduce that risk, such as eating and drinking, giving support, but not, again, giving them false information or false comfort like, oh, this won't hurt at all. It could hurt. Taking slow, deep breaths and encouraging your child to do that, looking away, being distracted with a mobile device or a game or a toy, and then just talking, being calm and talking about something pleasant. So all of these resources have a wealth of information that we know is useful. The second type of resource we have are the webinars that we have created and are posted on our website. So we have 2 one-hour webinars that we've done that are available on demand. You could view them and download them from our website. The first one was from December 2022. We partnered with the Autism Society, to discuss practical tips for improving the vaccination experience in the autism patient population and more broadly in the neurodiverse population, but a lot of these techniques are available to anyone who has anxiety around this. Our second one, which you can see a preview of or a screenshot on the lower right, was a partnership with the Help Eliminate Pain in Kids and Adults group from the University of Toronto. And this was geared towards reducing pain and anxiety in both children and adults, not specifically in an autism population, but just really for anyone. Looking a little bit deeper in what's in this first webinar. So we had participants from the Autism Society discuss practical tips to improve vaccine confidence and employing different strategies to reduce the stress, the anxiety, the pain when vaccinating neurodiverse patients. So a lot of information about understanding autism and why medical care, and particularly vaccines, can be especially challenging in that population. A lot of practical tips, sensory supports, and mentioned those earlier in our printed resources, but things like weighted lap blankets, fidget toy, noise canceling headphones, and also communication using symbols or letterboards, and depending on the person's ability to be verbal or communicate. And also strategies when vaccinating these patients. So explaining, being social narratives, giving them visual aids, just a lot of great resources here. I wanted to draw attention to this one especially helpful other document that we did not create, but the Autism Society did. But it's just, we found it to be a very helpful resource. So there's a link there at the bottom, but this is a PDF. I'm just showing the beginning of that, but it's a much longer PDF that gives a lot of tips and considerations, like the level of lighting in a clinic, preparing for the appointment, how the space is laid out to allow for movement or exploration, play, and just a lot of flexibility. The different tools could be used to reduce injection pain and all kinds of other support strategies to help alleviate the anxiety. So we certainly encourage you to take a look at this later. Our second webinar, we had Dr. Anna Taddeo and other experts from the Help Eliminate Pain in Kids and Adults group at the University of Toronto. They presented simple evidence-based strategies to reduce needle pain and apprehension, the principles that underlie why vaccines are such an anxiety-provoking medical procedure, and then a technique that they've developed called CARD, which stands for Comfort, Ask, Relax, and Distract. This is just a single screenshot from the webinar. So these strategies, comfort, find ways to help the patient be more comfortable, and you can see examples of that listed below. I'll not read those. Ask, encourage patients to ask what's going to happen, how big is the needle, what can we do to help, or asking the patient, would it be better if you see what's coming, the needle, or not? Would you like to lie down? Would you be more comfortable in that way? How to relax, how to help the patient relax, body position, talk, kind of deep breaths, those kind of things. And then a theme that's come up a lot in what I've talked about today is distractions, music, talking, a digital device, a toy, a magazine, ways to kind of get your mind off the anticipation anxiety of I'm about to receive a shot. The next category of information that we have are the videos that have been created by our CEO, Dr. Kelly Moore. These are separated into two groups. So 3 of them specifically address vaccination anxiety. They mirror what we've done in our clinical resource document. So 1 for infants, 1 for children, 1 for healthcare professionals. And then we have 3 more videos of just broadly improving the vaccination experience, such as how to administer multiple IM vaccines in one arm. And so you will have 1 sore arm potentially instead of 2 sore arms, using screening checklists to make sure that the contraindications are covered for and the patients are receiving the vaccinations only if they should be, and 1 document or 1 video specifically around fainting and what you need to know that kind of covers a lot of the material in that fainting document. These are very broad, and we just think they are very broadly applicable. And a lot of people have found these useful for training or onboarding or in services or sharing with partners or clinicians they support. And so we are going to actually now show this video that's just about 4 minutes. I am going to.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Moore, President and CEO of Immunize.org. In this video, I want to introduce you to some simple but important ways to address vaccination-related anxiety. Anxiety about injections is common in people of all ages, including about 1 in 4 adults. It can lead to delaying or refusing vaccination, even when you make a strong recommendation and the patient understands it's important. But anxiety and pain are subjective, and by acknowledging and addressing these feelings, you can help an anxious patient gain confidence and accept vaccinations more readily in the future. It starts before the visit. Use pre-registration or other strategies to minimize time in the waiting room where anxiety can grow. Set expectations ahead of time. Let people know you'll offer any needed vaccinations at each visit and that you'll work with them to make the experience more comfortable. This is especially important for families of autistic and neurodiverse people, for whom preparation is particularly important. Set up the vaccination area so it's comfortable and private, and keep needles out of sight until necessary. Consider counseling families about the use of non-prescription topical analgesia, such as a 5% lidocaine cream that they can purchase and apply to the vaccination site 30 to 60 minutes ahead. At the time of the visit, ask about anxiety. Immunize.org's screening checklists for vaccine contraindications now include a question about whether the patient feels anxious. If the patient is anxious, ask what would help them feel better. They may need ideas. For example, they can take some slow, deep breaths before, during, and after vaccination. They can distract themselves with their mobile device or by looking away and talking about something else with you or with a friend. While most people prefer to be distracted, some feel better if they can see what's happening, and that's okay too. Everyone present should be calm and supportive. Avoid using scary words like sting or jab, but don't mislead with unrealistic promises like you won't feel a thing. When vaccinating, consider strategies to minimize the pain sensation. For example, don't aspirate before intramuscular injections. Inject quickly. If giving more than one vaccine, give the most painful vaccination last. You can also distract nerve endings in the skin at the time of vaccination by applying a cooling spray to the skin, by placing a vibrating device just above the injection site, or by placing a small plastic device with many little blunt contact points around the injection site. For more information, please see our series of one-page clinical resources on addressing vaccination anxiety, strategies for healthcare professionals. We have them for adolescents and adults, children, and infants. They're all available on our website at immunize.org. Helping patients feel better about the vaccination process can make them more confident about saying yes the next time you recommend a vaccine. All of our resources to support your immunization practice are free to download, copy, and share. Access them at our website, www.immunize.org.
All right. So as you can see, those are very practical, relevant videos, and we certainly encourage you to look at those, share those, and as I mentioned, we have 6 videos. That was one of them. In addition to what immunize.org has created, we also have additional resources from partners that we include and link out to. Just a few of these that we want to highlight are things from the Autism Society of America, a vaccine educational initiative, or the VEI. So they have fear of needle resources to help eliminate pain in kids and adults from a group in the University of Toronto. They have a number of resources and publications. The card system, which we talked a little bit about in the webinar, is from About Kids Health, also at the University of Toronto. They have videos, training, games for kids, and even a whole course for healthcare professionals on that topic. And then we have evidence and vaccination guidelines for reducing anxiety from the Government of Canada, the World Health Organization, the Canada Communicable Disease Report. So these are all located on our webpage, which I'll show you during the demo portion. And as I mentioned, some of these actually participated and helped create our webinars, and others are just additional resources. So now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Courtney, and she's going to cover other immunize.org content related to improving the vaccination experience. Thank you.
Thanks, David. An important part of improving the immunization experience is recognizing that people have varying levels of information needs. And addressing questions and providing the information patients and parents desire is all part of this experience. It's important that recipients understand which vaccines they're receiving, why they're getting them, the benefits and risks, as well as what to expect after the shots are given. So in the next few slides, I'll cover some of our other resources that can help you provide materials to patients and parents in a format that's interesting, easy to understand, and really gets to the heart of their questions. Next slide. So first, we'll cover some of our resources for providers. Next slide, please. Thanks, David. Our Vaccines A to Z web pages will help you to answer just about any patient question that arises. Materials include detailed content on each vaccine preventable disease, clinical resources that are downloadable and shareable with your staff, Ask the Experts questions and responses, so those really specific questions that come up about different vaccines, those are available on each A to Z page, as well as federal and state resources, including recommendations, vaccine information statements, and state policies for school and childcare entry. Next slide, please. Vaccine information statements are information sheets produced by the CDC that explain both the benefits and risks of a vaccine to the recipient. VIS are provided to the recipient or caregiver as a method of informed consent before vaccination. Federal law requires provision of the current official VIS in English to a patient, parent, or legal representative before each dose of any vaccine included in the Federal Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. VIS are recommended by CDC for use with other vaccines, and the current official VIS in English should be provided along with any VIS translation that you hand out. We know that providing VIS to your patients in their own language increases their confidence in and understanding of vaccination. Immunize.org offers translations in 48 different languages. And on the web pages and links listed on this slide, you can search VIS translations by language or vaccine for all of the VIS that you might need. Next slide. This is just one example of the flu VIS translations and VIS resources that are available to help support your patients. And as we mentioned, these are available for all of the vaccine preventable diseases. Flu in particular, inactivated and recombinant VIS, is available in 45 different translated languages. And we also have this helpful printable resource, which is the second image shown on this slide, with QR codes to all influenza VIS translations. So this is really easy to use in a clinic setting. If it's laminated, you can have the patient pull it up on their phone and scan the VIS in their native language. Next slide. Immunize.org offers downloadable, printable resources for two distinct groups. And those are the same groups that David talked about in the Improving the Immunization Experience slides. So we have resources that are available for patients and their families, as well as resources that are available for healthcare professionals. In total, we have 174 different resources in English, which include 118 for healthcare professionals and 61 for vaccine recipients, so patients, parents, caregivers. 18 different languages are available in these different resources. And we know that patients benefit from having vaccine information in their own preferred language. Immunize.org's downloadable patient handouts and translated screening questionnaires make it easier for you to meet this need. You can search and filter in a variety of different ways to easily locate what you're looking for. So for instance, here on this slide, the search function is shown, and you can search our whole suite of resources by all patient handouts, all resources for staff and providers, by a specific language or translation, or a specific topic. Our resources are regularly updated and announced in our weekly newsletter, IZ Express, and we'll share the link for how to subscribe in a few at the end of today's session. Next slide. Our Ask the Experts section is one of the most visited sections of the Immunize.org website. With more than 1,300 entries, it provides practical and timely answers to your questions. There are 5 subsections that you can explore, and this includes Ask the Experts Overview, View All Questions, View All Video Questions, so similar to that format David just showed you, we have Ask the Experts short videos that Dr. Kelly Moore goes through a question and response, vaccine topics, and general topics. You can narrow your search by entering a word or phrase into the keyword search, because as you can imagine, with over 1,300 entries, you're going to want to narrow down what you're looking for. But by having this expertise at your fingertips, you can help to improve the immunization experience by being ready for any immunization question or scenario that might come your way. Next slide. So those were the resources primarily targeting healthcare professionals. Now we're going to go over some of our resources for patients and parents. Our newest website is letsgetrealaboutvaccines.org. We're really excited about this website. It's a trustworthy, parent-friendly platform that delivers factual vaccine guidance. It's focused on the pediatric population, and in subsequent slides, I'll show you some of our resources that are focused on any age group. But this website in particular is focused on pediatrics. It helps equip providers with tools to advocate for childhood immunization confidently. And it supports families by providing credible, unbiased information about childhood vaccines. Some of the key features of letsgetreal.org include personal stories to convey important facts, plain language to debunk misinformation. Information is real, balanced, and unbiased. And the entire website, not just the resources on the website, but the entire website is available in English and Spanish by toggling on and off the button in the top right corner. Next slide. Also on the Let's Get Real website is the Learn About Children's Vaccines tab. This tab walks parents through the science and stories surrounding routine childhood vaccines. Under this tab, you'll find the Vaccine Preventable Diseases page, which organizes content by age and phase of childhood and by vaccines and the diseases they protect against. So for each disease, there's a chart which compares the risks for contracting that disease with the known risks of getting vaccinated to protect against that disease. And an example here is shown for measles vaccine. So when you select the measles icon, which is highlighted in red, it will take you to a page that describes the disease, reasons for vaccination, along with information on safety, effectiveness, and potential side effects of vaccination. And this is a really great resource for parents who want more details. They want more information. And this same type of comparison table is available for each vaccine preventable disease. Next slide, please. Vaccineinformation.org is our educational website for the public. This offers straightforward information for people of all ages. So where Let's Get Real About Vaccines.org was for the pediatric population, this webpage is for all populations. It's organized by age groups, so there's tabs for infants and children, preteens, teens, and adults. And some of the subsections that you'll find include vaccines you need, which includes schedules, resources to better understand those schedules, and links to find places to get vaccinated. There's resources, including some of the handouts that we've discussed earlier from immunize.org, as well as links to content from other reputable organizations, such as the Vaccine Education Center at CHOP, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and Vaccinate Your Family, to name a few. There are personal testimonies on this website, including real stories from people who have experienced vaccine-preventable illness. And there's videos which are filtered by age or disease. Next slide. This is a look at the Vaccine Basics section of the vaccineinformation.org website. This section covers foundational topics about vaccines, immunization, and vaccine-related resources. Content includes things such as evaluating online health information, how vaccines work, the importance of vaccines, information about vaccine safety and the vaccine safety programs in our country, improving the vaccination experience, so some of those materials we discussed today, and paying for vaccines. So this is not all of the content, but this is just a glimpse of what you'll find there. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to David, who's going to wrap up today's session with a quick demo of our website.
Thank you, Courtney. That was a great overview of all the different types of resources and that we have on our immunize.org family of websites, really. So I'm going to spend a few minutes in a demo kind of showing you where you can, I can't show you everything, guiding you through where to find the information that we talked about today. Before I kind of switch off of the PowerPoint, I did want to recommend, if you are not already subscribed, we have a free email newsletter called IZ Express that we send out. It's every week, but then there are also some special editions. This helps you keep up to date on general immunization news, also things that we add or update on our website. Anything that's going on in immunization, you'll find it here, and including ways to find what you're looking for, tips and tricks of how to use our website effectively to find what you want. So this is available a number of places. There's a link at the bottom there, but even if you just go to our homepage at immunize.org and scroll down the homepage, you'll see this blue box where you can enter your email address and start receiving our free weekly newsletter if you do not already. So I'm going to stop the presentation. I'm going to stop share so I can change over to the demo real quick. One of the things about our website is we have so much information. It can be somewhat daunting, honestly, sometimes to find what you want. It's been 2 years since we did a website redesign, and all the feedback we've gotten is that the new website is easier to navigate, but there's a lot here. And so I want to make sure that you all can find the things that we showed and we talked about in the previous presentation. This is our homepage, www.immunize.org. I do want to draw your attention to the top. We, 2 days ago, turned on our survey, our user survey, which we do about every 2 years. So you'll see a banner there. There's a link there. If you're already an IZ Express subscriber, there's a link there as well to take our 5-minute survey to help us understand what you use on our website and how we might be able to do things better. But this is our homepage, and so you're going to see a lot of information highlighted here, including some of the documents that we talked about. We have a weekly webinar that goes into more detail. You can see that over on the right. Courtney and I are both involved in that, and that's been very successful. And those videos are recorded. I just wanted to show you, in fact, if you do go to the homepage and scroll down, you will see the email sign-up box here. But what I want to go through is primarily where to find the vaccination experience resources that we highlighted today. So when we get to clinical resources, so the documents that we started off with showing, you can find those by going to clinical resources. We have a clinical resources A to Z, which just shows those documents. And so many of those PDFs are scattered throughout here, but the best way to find the main page for everything we showed today is to go down to the second item, vaccine confidence and addressing concerns. So this is the broader category where improving the vaccination experience information lives. And so you're probably going to be interested in to just browse around here. It talks about adjuvants, autism, religious concerns, how to answer questions that patients may have. So there's a lot of information here, but everything we talked about today is going to be found under the last item in the first column on the right side, which is improving the vaccination experience. And so this is where we took a lot of our screenshots from earlier, but we have really a lot of information here. So you see our printable resources. First, the 4 documents for providers that we discussed. So you see previews, title, description, and you can click on the preview or view the link, and that's going to pull up the PDF that then you can save or print. We also have the 4 documents that are for the patients and parents, vaccine recipients here. So the infants and toddlers, the children, the adolescent adults, and then finally the one specifically for vaccinated-related syncope or fainting. If you continue to scroll down or use the On This Page menu that's over on the right side, you'll see the 2 webinars that we talked about. So you can see they're both about an hour, and you can click to view those that are recorded. And then if you continue to scroll down, you will see our videos. So these are the 6 videos, including the one which we showed you during the previous part of this webinar. And so here you can view them. And then all the additional resources, a few of which we highlighted, are down here under more resources. And so this is the place I would come first to find these, but not the only place you can find information. So for example, if we were to go to our webinars and videos section for all of our content, you would see that we have 22 different webinars here, including the 2 that we talked about. If you are trying to set up something around flu or particular vaccines, you may find these webinars helpful. And then over on the video side, we have 125 different videos. You can sort these and filter these by vaccine or disease name or subject, are improving the vaccination experience being one of those topics. And you can see that if you were to filter, wait for it to refresh, you would see the 6 videos that we talked about before. There's the vaccines and VISs, or everything else is kind of scattered around here and under the main menu. And so you can find those resources that Courtney was discussing as well. At the bottom of our homepage, and really any of our pages, we've got a list of our affiliated sites. The 2 that we highlighted today are first vaccineinformation.org. So here's the links to vaccineinformation.org, the vaccine basics, say, for example, the improving the vaccination experience is one of those topics that Courtney briefly mentioned, but here's what the page actually has. So you've got some information. Here are those patient resources. We have a video, access to the video library through a link here to preview some other really good informational things, not specifically around vaccine anxiety or fainting, but information for the public about why vaccine works. And then these links as well that we shared earlier. You can also go to the main page for each of our different age groups, infants and children, teens and adults, and then get to specifically those age-appropriate resources. I'm going to go back to our homepage and just show you for a couple minutes our Let's Get Real. So that's linked here. Let's Get Real about vaccines.org. This is the homepage. As Courtney mentioned, there is a bilingual page. It's fully translated into Spanish as well as English. And so if you use the button at the top that's turns blue when you mouse over it, you can get you can toggle between English and the Spanish version. What I think is one of the most helpful resources around vaccine preventable diseases that Courtney showed a screenshot from is available here under the main menu. Second item down, here are the cards that she mentioned. You can filter these cards for ages. So if you want to see what vaccines are going to be recommended for ages 4 to 6, it'll show you those cards. If you select one, in addition to the table that we showed you a screenshot of, you're going to get a lot of information for the public here. Why does my child need to be vaccinated against measles? Are they safe? How effective is it? What are the side effects? Here's the table that I just think it does a great job of comparing that, yes, vaccines have side effects, but the diseases are much more severe and can be very severe. And the downloadable links, common questions answered. So a lot of things the patients or parents are asking, which may make them hesitant or worried about a particular vaccine, and measles is certainly in that group, are things that are addressed here. And so as providers, you can recommend this, print out these resources, maybe even make them available in the clinic. And those would be things that certainly would help with adoption and acceptance of vaccines. So a lot of information here, certainly not enough time to show you everything. So I'm going to wrap up the demo here and turn it back over to our post at Patagonia, and we can have some time to answer questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Courtney and David. We do have some questions. If you guys think of any additional questions, feel free to either put it in the chat or in the Q&A section. Okay, I'll share my screen really quick so you can see my cute slide that says questions. Look how cute that is. Okay, let's go over our questions that we have. So let's make sure I can see everybody. Okay, Nicole says, if we were to put together a resource for patients that are hesitant with credible vaccine information and sites they can visit, which sites would you suggest? She's wondering, would it be the Let's Get Real About Vaccines.org and the vaccineinformation.org, or are there any others that you would recommend for patients?
Yeah, Courtney, do you want to
Sure.
start with this one? And
Yeah, definitely.
chime in.
I think it probably depends on the patient population you're trying to reach. So if these are parents of young children or school-age children, Let's Get Real about vaccines.org is really easy to navigate. It answers a lot of those common questions that come up and digs deeper into the information, which we know that parents want to do. If you're reaching different age groups, vaccineinformation.org is probably better. It's broader, so it has information for adults and travel vaccines, as well as for infants, children, and preteens. But I think if you wanted to include both of them, that would be fine too. As a parent myself, I think the Let's Get Real About Vaccines.org, some of the images that are used there for social media and that comparison chart we showed you are just a couple of examples, but it really gets to the heart of a lot of the questions that parents have these days and dives into what happens if you don't vaccinate and how do we know what's a credible resource. And I think they're both great sites. And I think to determine which one might be better probably depends on who you're trying to reach. But David, did you have
Yeah,
more to
I
add
was
to
just
that?
going to mention that on immunize.org, under our clinical resources menu, we do have a menu item called external resources. One of those items there is called immunize.org partners. And so we have an accordion that's A to Z, we don't have Z's, A to Z alphabetically of trusted partners that we have. Certainly, these are groups that target their information to healthcare providers, but a lot of them have information for the public. I think a couple that has come top of mind are for pediatric vaccines, the American Academy of Pediatrics is a wealth of information. And also the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, the Vaccine Education Center. Paul Offit and his group there just have a lot of great information that are for parents and for providers. There's other groups that specifically just target families and parents. Vaccinate Your Family is a really good organization. Voices for Vaccines is another great organization that are really focused on public education. And so whether it is provider looking up stuff and getting it for the patient or just recommending those sites to the patient or concerned patients, those are some other sites that we link to heavily as partners of ours on our website.
Great, thank you. Melanie had an interesting question. Her question was, how do you convince skeptics that Let's Get Real About Vaccines.org or any of these other websites is really unbiased and trustworthy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll go ahead and start on this one, Courtney,
Great.
if you don't mind. That's hard. That's very difficult, obviously, because even sources that are not trustworthy and not credible say they are, right? And supposedly have links to data or research and stuff. So particularly about Let's Get Real, one of the things that we really like about this site was originally developed by Health and Human Services, and they knew it was going to be shut down by the current administration. They were able to give us the website, and we've made changes and done some updates, but the bulk of the research was done by them. On that, in that website in particular, at the bottom of every page, we have sources, cited sources. So these certainly can be CDC or FDA sources, but often they are to research articles or other groups that are trustworthy, like American Academy of Pediatrics. And that's one of the things that we actually talk about on that website is how people can determine what is trustworthy and credible information and not. And citing sources or being transparent about where the information comes from is one of those. I think having a lot of sources, if you have one group saying or one person saying, that's maybe not as trustworthy as if you have a consensus of healthcare organizations or so-called experts. That's another thing. But so we are very aware of that and try to share our sources and have some particular resources about how to find and trust information, because you can't just read things on the internet and trust them ever, but certainly not these days. And so while it is a difficult problem, I think that we are trying to help out there as well.
I think that's a great answer. Thank you so much. I don't know if you guys would know the answer to this, but Melanie did ask if she was wondering if you knew if we're close to be able to offer any of our current injectable vaccines as oral format. Do you happen to know or have heard anything about that?
I do not. You have one of the two physicians on immunize.org, but you don't have the one that's a world expert in the vaccines. That would be our CEO, Dr. Moore. You have the one that got into computers after he did medicine for a while. And so I just can't speak on that. One of the things about our site is we don't do a lot of talking about what's in the pipeline, even though that's out there and there are people that do that. So we limit it because, frankly, that's not something that providers are going to be giving right now. So our information is really geared to be for providers on the front lines, people ordering, people in public health, people drawing up, administering, documenting, educating the patients. And so we really restrict everything that we write about and put to things that are licensed, approved, and recommended for routine or travel or special indications. And so that's just not something I can answer. I'm sorry.
Thanks, David. Okay. Oh, wait, there might be one more question. Let's see. Super quickly, Tatum says, if a patient was skeptical due to who is funding these sites, like fear about them being paid off by big pharma to push vaccines, do you have any advice on how to navigate those conversations? If that makes sense, let me know if you need me to rephrase that.
Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that, Courtney?
Sure. We know that's coming up more and more. We know that that's out there on social media, and parents are asking these questions, and so are patients. I did throw a couple of links in the chat. I think they went to everyone, and these are a little bit helpful. We have the credibility checklist. So I think this is helpful, maybe not necessarily in sharing as a link with your patients, though you certainly could, but it helps talk through, like, how do you know if something is credible? And what are the things you should be looking for? And I think those are helpful talking points for you. I also threw in there the doing your own research. We hear that a lot. And what is research, and how do we know who to trust? So I think that's a common question that comes up. What I like about the Let's Get Real website is that we link to a lot of different partner sources, a lot of different sources. And so we're not just referencing one organization. So it's a myriad of recommendations from individuals in the field. And I think that does help to lend itself to improved credibility. But David, do you have any other suggestions for dealing with that question in particular about pharma?
Yes, general things. That's a tough question, right? Because physicians get paid for the work they do, and manufacturers get paid for the vaccines. And my view is that you have to open it up to say, you have to understand that just because that's their job doesn't mean they're doing something just to make money to harm patients. And so I think that referring people to groups that really don't have a financial stake directly, like American Academy of Pediatrics or American Academy of Family Practice, that are making recommendations, pointing out that every voice you hear, those people who are telling you and suggesting that people are giving vaccines just to make money, they're actually making money telling people not to give vaccines, whether it be through ties with supplements or lawsuits or all kinds of things. But it is a hard question. If there's someone who really wants to research it, they may be able to do enough research to realize that no one's out there making a lot of money, and a lot of times they're losing money giving vaccines. Like, vaccines are not the cash cow of medicine, and never have been, never will be. And that may be a little too much detail to really take on in trying to educate patients. That's the truth. Is, if you want to make a lot of money in healthcare, I think you should probably become a neurosurgeon, not a pediatrician who's trying to keep kids from having measles. But showing that these healthcare providers are just doing what they know is in the best interest of the health of their patient populations is important.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Tatum. Thanks, everybody else who chimed in today. We appreciate your participation and appreciate the important work you do in your communities. If this is your first time hearing about Patagonia Health, Allow me to quickly introduce us. We are an integrated EHR practice management and billing solution designed specifically for public health departments. We provide clinical tools to support immunizations and mass vaccinations. So if you want to learn anything more about us and what we do, go ahead and visit our website at www.patagoniahealth.com. Thank you again, Courtney and David, and thank you so much for joining us today on this Thursday. Have a great day, everyone.